So, man, Goggins, I mean, that is crazy. So you get through Hell Week.
Right.
That's a milestone for anybody, and especially for you, where you'd come from and how hard you've been fighting. And you already know your body's fucked.
Yeah, man. I knew for a fact that um, there's gonna be, a little bit more training ahead of me. And I'm not talking about with my class. I had a feeling that something bad was gonna happen to me. But my knee was so messed up that I went in and actually stole a whole bunch of Motrin. So you're supposed to go to the doc. So during med check, I think you have about maybe 2 or 3 med checks a day. I'm not quite for sure. I know you have one during the day, during the morning. I think one in the afternoon maybe, and then one at night, or maybe it's one in the day, one at night. Not for sure. But I actually went in and stole a whole bunch of Motrin. And by this time, it was my second Hell Week, so I knew kind of where I was going to be at different evolutions and whatnot. So I would, stage Motrin in the sand. So I was probably taking about 10 of these a day, and these are 800 milligrams. And the most you're supposed to take is 3. One for breakfast, one for lunch, and one for dinner. And I was popping them, man, like Tic Tacs. And I was just trying to get through this thing because I knew that, I was just trying to get through the whole program.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally fighting each second is its own battle, right? Like each minute is its own battle. You're just staying one after another, stringing them together.
100%. And I didn't want to. So I was like my boat crew leader. So the whole thing about being a leader is you just cannot show weakness. And the second you start limping around or things start getting tough, your mind is going to once again take control. And if I would have limped around and that pain would have got even more than what it was, my whole boat crew would have fed off of me, kind of dragging my leg behind me. And, it's infectious.
Yeah, you don't know who else might have crumbled.
Exactly. Weakness is infectious. So my bro crew saw that my knee was the size of a grapefruit. And I was like, fuck it, let's go. So that was also infectious. So having that kind of mindset, I knew I had to bring that, not just for myself. And that's the whole other thing about being a leader, is I realized the more you think about yourself when you're going through hell, the harder hell's going to be. The second you start looking after everybody else and start, being concerned about them, you no longer think about yourself. And when you don't think about yourself, you're not trapped in your own thoughts. You're not trapped in your own hell. And so that's what I did. And the more I thought about my boat crew and getting them through every evolution, that's being the best. I didn't worry about my fucking knee. But the second Hell Week was over, that pain was real.
Yeah, you had a purpose bigger than yourself as the leader, which actually helped you achieve more. But then when it comes to the body, if you're injured, you're injured.
Exactly. And yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Well, we'll get into that later, but first we have a challenge here that's kind of, what I like about this challenge you've got here is you're kind of walking through, again, the practice of taking souls and showing how it can apply to different areas in life.
Right.
So I'll read through it and we can talk a little bit more about it.
Roger that.
Challenge 4. Choose any competitive situation that you're in right now. Who is your opponent? Is it your teacher or coach, your boss, an unruly client? No matter how they're treating you, there is one way to not only earn their respect, but turn the tables. Excellence. That may mean acing an exam, or crafting an ideal proposal, or smashing a sales goal. Whatever it is, I want you to work harder on that project or in that class than you ever have before. Do everything exactly as they ask, and whatever standard they set as an ideal outcome, you should be aiming to surpass that. If your coach doesn't give you time in the games, dominate practice. Check the best guy on your squad and show the fuck out. That means putting time in off the field, watching film so you can study your opponent's tendencies, memorizing plays, and training in the gym. You need to make that coach pay attention. If it's your teacher, then start doing work of high quality. Spend extra time on your assignments. Write papers for her that she didn't even assign. Come early to class. Ask questions. Pay attention. Show her who you are and want to be. If it's a boss, work around the clock. Get to work before them. Leave after they go home. Make sure they see that shit. When it's time to deliver, surpass their maximum expectations. Whoever you're dealing with, your goal is to make them watch you achieve what they could never have done themselves. You want them thinking how amazing you are. Take their negativity and use it to dominate their task with everything you've got. Take their motherfucking soul. Afterward, post it on social and add the hashtag. Hashtag can't hurt me. Hashtag taking souls. You know, I love that because your goal here is to take it out of the physical. I mean, yes, if it's a team sport or something where a coach has control, it's really a power dynamic game you're playing.
It is. And this takes me back to when we talked about me in high school and how much I loved basketball, and how between my junior year I got cut from the basketball team because I was just pissed off and I didn't want to go to daggone summer practice and stuff like that. And I still tried out. And when the first cuts came, I got cut first cuts, man, and that took my soul. But as my mind started changing and I started realizing what I was doing to myself, I started realizing, you know what, I have to dominate next year. So what I did was I came back the very next year, and instead of shooting the ball all the time, because I knew the coach didn't like me. For whatever reason, the coach didn't like me at all. So I literally became one of the best defensive players in the state of Indiana. And I say that loud and proud because I went from a guy who shot the ball and was trying to become everybody loves the guy that scores the points. I became the grittiest motherfucker on the daggone basketball court. So taking souls is also another way of don't let anybody get the advantage over you. You have to change your mindset, find where you can get the advantage, and then dominate that area.
You turn yourself into the kind of player every coach had to put on the floor
Exactly.
because you changed the game in a way without having to need the ball.
Exactly. I took the decision-making out of his hands. There's not one coach on the planet Earth that doesn't want a defensive stopper.
Yeah.
So that's what I knew, and that's what I became.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great for any young people reading this, or people who have kids who are not getting the time that they'd hoped to. Gives them ways. Dominating practice is a great thing. Check their best player, and if you can hold the best player on your team to nothing in a practice game, you're gonna play.
And that's exactly what happened, man. I was in practice, man, busting my ass, and I just changed my whole mindset. I flipped it.
But the idea of power dynamics is so important because in Hell Week, you're not in the power position. The instructors are. In life, we always have people. I mean, it's very rare that you're not in a situation where there's some power dynamic that you have to deal with, whether it's a client or a boss or a teacher. They're always there. And so, it's how do you manage that relationship? And what you're saying is manage it by being great, and your greatness will melt all the problems that you have.
That is true, but one thing you have to be careful for. Taking souls is a very powerful, powerful thing, and it can piss a lot of people off. So what you have to understand is you have to do it with humility. And that was some of the things I got caught up in, where I was, there's a time and a place to where, you can't be so humble. And when I was going through SEAL training, it was mano a mano. So that was a place where I wanted them to feel pain, because they were putting me through pain. But there's a lot of situations when you're using this tactic, is you have to be careful because you can piss your boss off, you can piss people off. So do it with the understanding of you're trying to be your best. You are trying to be your very, very best in a time when everybody else is kind of tired. And that pisses people off. For you being a so-called overachiever, it makes people look at you very differently.
Yeah, so know that going in, but still do it.
Oh, yes, 100% still do it, but know that going in for sure.